Let's take a tour around the Pfaff Ambition Essential sewing machine, kind of buttons in the screen, the numbers here, and how to pick your decorative stitches. So when you turn the machine on, it's going to first start you at stitch 0, and that's going to just be your straight stitch. It'll tell you what foot you should be using, so 0 here, and then a stitch length, a default stitch length, 2.5. And this one, even though it has a little zigzag picture, it actually has a picture of a needle at the top. So on a straight stitch, it's not zigzag, it's needle position. And we'll show you needle positions and how many. You've got 29 needle positions. We can move that left or right, which I love. Lots of fine tuning with this particular machine. Next, right under those basic stitch numbers, it says direct. When you choose like the stitch menu button, or the mode selection button here, you'll notice that if it says direct, these are the stitches that you'll get. If you touch it once, it says patterns, and then these are all the patterns and decorative stitches. And then if you touch it again, you get over to the alphabets. So depending on which category you are in, depends on which stitches that you're gonna get. Keeping in mind direct, and patterns, you have a number 1 in direct and number 1 in patterns. So if you're on the wrong one, you might be getting a different stitch than what you think you're getting on that. As you come over here, we can put in, so if we're in the direct area and we want stitch number 4, all we have to do is touch stitch number 4. But if we want stitch number 4 in the pattern area, touch that mode selection button and now touch 04. And then it will be selected. Now here's something that I didn't know until I read through the book before starting to do these videos. Do you see that some of these numbers are actually blue with the number inside, and some of these numbers are just numbered? Okay, so over here there's just like a black number under each stitch. Those that are blue are to be used with the IDT, or the integrated dual feed. So make sure you are using this engaged when you're working with a stitch with a blue number, and that you disengage it when you're working with a stitch without a blue number. So for example, with the buttonholes, we don't want dual feed, but with some of these other basic utility stitches, we do. So, and you'll notice that when we pick, like over here at patterns like 74, it's going to tell us to put the 2 foot on. And so in our accessory box, that foot is not a dual feed foot. So just a little reminder, blue bubbles versus just black numbers, the difference between having your dual feed engaged and not engaged. All right, so if I just want to go back to a straight stitch, I'll go over to alphabets, touch it again to go to direct. I'm on my first stitch because it says 0, and I'm back to a regular straight stitch. So these buttons here, the first 4 are all part of the memory. The heart would turn your memory on. You'll notice all your stitch information disappears, and it's waiting for you to put a stitch into memory or an alphabet. Love those. C would be for clearing that out as you put them in, and arrows would arrow through if you need to delete or add in a certain place. So I'm going to turn our memory off. Just like I said, keep in mind the top 4 buttons are all associated with the memory or programming or sequencing of this machine. The next one underneath is a straight and then a stitch, and then it's got 3 stitches underneath. That is a tie-off stitch. So when you engage that, it's going to do a locking stitch like at the end of your pattern. Here is a mirror image. So any of these patterns that are facing this way and you want them to face that way, all you have to do, push that, it flips it over. It'll even come up on your screen when we have a pattern selected that can actually be flipped. Doesn't let me do it with a straight stitch. This is how we are moving around between pattern, direct, and alphabets here. We have stitch length and stitch width. So if I want a longer stitch length or a shorter stitch length, I can go ahead and change it. Very nice small increments to do just that. And then our width or needle position, depending on which stitch you actually have selected. Now the easiest way to clear out something, let's make this really long and really to the side. If you just reselect stitch 0, it will clear out those settings. Turning your machine off and on will also clear out those settings. Down here are buttons closest to us are our needle up or down. So I do like that I can have it stop in the down position. So whichever little picture is showing, if the arrow's pointing down, it will always stop down. And then here is our reverse button. If I just touch it, you'll notice that picture comes up, and it will sew backwards until I untouch it. So let me just show you something about the reverse. If I touch it while I'm sewing and then let go, it actually will just generate stitches backwards, and then as soon as I let go, it stitches forward again. But if I just touch it here, it's on. It's continuously backwards until I touch it again. So just kind of watch for that little symbol if that's coming on. But if you touch it while you're sewing, you just get that quick little back and forth as you go. So that's kind of a quick overview of how you pick stitches, and we'll be doing more as we go through all the rest of the videos to help you master this machine.